Welcome back to a new video and a new monster long video. So I did a similar thing as the last time. One clip for snatching, one clip for clean and jerks, one clip for squats, and as a bonus, I actually had someone on Instagram asking about accessories, and so I actually posted a clip of the accessories I did today, which were just some cable tricep extensions and some bicep curls, cable bicep curls. The only reason I really do bicep curls is because I do tricep extensions, and I like to balance that both out. But this session was the heavy one of the week, or at least the goal was to go heavy in the snatch and the clean jerk, and to put together some sort of total. Snatching went well. I was able to get up to 115 without any missing, and it felt good. That was the other big thing. There wasn't any misses, and the weights felt pretty manageable. I did miss 120 two times, which is annoying, so I felt like I was strong enough to do it. I just didn't have a good enough technique for it. But to get up to the 115, to go 100, 105, 110, 115 without missing and without anything feeling too difficult, which I haven't looked at the 115 yet actually, so I'll look at that together with you guys. I just went up to 120 since I was at the end of that clip. But that's the other interesting thing when I record these long clips like this. I don't look at any of the clips while I'm lifting, of course, because then I would require stopping the film or whatever. So I get to kind of experience all the lifts as I'm watching it with you guys, which is kind of interesting because I typically, obviously most of my videos aren't like this. They have a lot of cuts in them just because most of the time they're just, short clips of me lifting. But like I said, got up to 115 in the snatch, got up to a really stinky 150 in the clean and jerk. And in one hand, it was really ugly, but on the other hand, I was able to get the 150 in some sort of fashion. I was pretty happy with the 140 prior to it, and really honestly I was really happy with how cleans are feeling. My legs are feeling really strong, which is why the squat that I did after clean jerks felt so good. I don't know too, it was also interesting, so I put wraps and sleeves on my legs different for this session. So as I was warming up for snatching, I was like, I want more compression than just the sleeves. The sleeves are really good for keeping your knees warm, and these are the lighter sleeves from Hook Grip, so they're not really doing a lot out of the bottom, like bouncing me up or anything like that. And so I like to have them on for snatching if I'm going to have sleeves on, because they are lighter and they're going to, not have that restriction of mobility. But I experimented. I don't know what weight. I think it might have been at 80. I put my knee wraps on and pulled my knee sleeves down, and did that for a couple sets, and then had the idea of, why don't I just pull my knee sleeves up since they're already on my leg and see how that feels to have it over my knee. And I wasn't able to get them as high up as normal, so they were like slightly lower, maybe like an inch. And I had the knee wraps on as well, and so kind of having both of those, which I think I've done that before, but I might have done it with the heavier sleeves, so the compression was too much where it was like cutting off circulation. But I was getting a similar feeling as I get with the black knee wraps that I have, and it just felt really nice as far as the compression, but also the kind of the bounce out of the bottom. I think it's that good happy medium between the compressing nature of the knee wraps, which I really enjoy. I think that just feels really good while you're training, and also the neoporn or whatever, however you say it. I don't no idea how you're saying it, but the neo whatever, and having that warmth of that fabric kind of holding everything together. And it wasn't so much that like, oh, my legs hurt so bad, I have to have this on for it. But it did feel really nice as far as it was like having the compression of the big knee sleeves, but with just a little bit more, I don't know, just like more length of it, I suppose, than the knee sleeves would normally give. Might be something I utilize more just because it felt really good. And it was kind of nice because I could kind of scale it up to where, I have just a knee sleeve on, or I just have the knee wraps on, and then I pull that up, and then I can more easily adjust it with that. I don't know, it was interesting, but yeah, it was definitely on this rep that I was putting the wraps on with that. And I kept them on for really the rest of the session, which is the interesting thing, because usually if I put the black knee wraps on, I have to kind of take them off and put them back on because they start to bunch behind my knees, and that cuts off the circulation, at least on one or both of my legs. So they become obviously not just uncomfortable, but just I would say almost unsafe, but the lack of circulation that it starts to initiate after having them on for a little bit. So this setup with it didn't create that. I had a little bit on the left leg where it was a little bit too tight in a sense, where you could kind of feel like, oh no, I'm, might lose a little bit of circulation, but that was kind of assuaged after exercises, and it never ended up being to the point where I had to redo them. So as far as the convenience of it, that was certainly nice, and based on how the squats felt, certainly something that I wouldn't mind utilizing again. I felt like I was getting a really good bounce out of the bottom, but I think on this rep, well, obviously you can see on this rep I just did with the knee sleeves, and after this I pulled the wraps up, or on this rep I said it backwards. I put the wraps on and then I pulled the sleeve up on the next set, but it was very interesting. Let's see how this 80 looked. I think I remember this feeling pretty routine. I was a little forward. And it's like one of those things that, I just have to keep working on the mobility of the shoulder and keep trying to get, like, it's just so close to just being like 100% that I keep in my brain just saying it's at 100%. And that's how I, approach these reps, and I'm not as locked in as pulling it back as I should. One thing I was noticing with snatching as well is when I was setting up before I start to initiate any sort of the pull, that my left shoulder is pushed forward, because when I'm trying to relax both of my arms, that's why you'll see me kind of like shake my arms. I'm just trying to relax them so they're not holding a ton of tension in them. And I've noticed that my left shoulder is rolled forward more when I'm trying to relax it. Instead, I was trying to kind of just pull my scaps back, just to kind of not necessarily like get it to be super tight, but just to get it to be closer to the position that it would be locked in as I start to initiate the pull. And that definitely felt good for the reps, and I think that's one reason why a lot of these reps felt really good. If I remember correctly, the 110 felt really good. There was this really nice kid that was coming in. I say kid because he's 15. But as he was walking in, I did the 110 snatch, and it felt like I had a snatch like this earlier in the week where it felt like I overpulled it slightly, but it was in such a good position. I remember being with like 105 earlier. I think it was the 105 no foot snatch. I think this was the same feeling, but like I was a little too far back, but it was only slight. But then like the lockout and all the overhead position felt really, really good. And so I was just chilling down in the bottom of the hole for, a few extra seconds, just because I was really surprised with how solid I caught it. So just like little things like that just tell me that things are moving in the right direction. Obviously, leg strength going up is obviously a really good indicator. One thing that was kind of a struggle was actually the thumb tape. So I had pink and blue on because the blue roll ran out, and so I threw on some of the pink. That's why I had both. It wasn't a fashion statement. I don't have any fashion, so you don't ever have to worry about that. And my OCD would not allow me just to always have two different colors. That's one little pet peeve that I see weightlifters doing with like two color shoes. Like I don't know how you do that and lift a weight. Like it just would bother me so much looking down and seeing two color shoes. But I guess once you do it enough, then I guess you get used to it, like a true psychopath. But I like symmetry, even though I'm very asymmetrical. I like the things being the same color on both sides. I don't think that's a pretty radical opinion to have about the world. But the thumb tape was creating issues, not so much for the color reason, but the left side kept ripping, which I don't know if is a function of something. That's something that is interesting. So on the left side, like the thumb tape will rip more often than the right, and I don't know if that's just a grip difference, if my hand spins different, if there's some sort of biomechanical thing. And it's been a thing for a while. I think it even predates like the shoulder issue I had after the shoulder injury. I'm pretty sure it happened even before then. But just one of those things. It's not something that's like crazy noticeable when I'm doing the lifts, or like it's not like, oh my gosh, like this is so wonky when I'm pulling or anything like that. I don't know what it is. Just probably idiosyncrasy of my lifts and just the exact way that I pull or hold on to the bar with hook grip on one side or the other. One theory I suppose I could have is back in 5th grade, going back quite far, but in 5th grade I broke my right arm on my radius, and the part of the radius that I broke was super close to my wrist. So I had a ton of essentially just nerve damage on my pointer and middle finger and thumb, really all of my fingers, but those 3 and my pointer finger was certainly the most impacted for years after that point. And I would venture to say that there could be like a nerve impulse difference between my right hand and left hand that's just permanent. which could explain the lack of, how my left hand maybe grips a little bit harder than my right. I have no way of knowing this for sure, and I'm sure I could probably measure like the amount of force I could exert with my right hand versus my left as far as grip goes, or as far as like holding the hook grip, because that would, like, if I truly did have like a nerve difference in those two pointer fingers, like holding onto my thumb, would kind of to me make sense that that would be different on my right and left slightly. But thankfully, that's the manifestation of it. It's just, thumb tape rips a little more often on the left side. But I was kind of noticing that it didn't really impact anything. I was also using the competitional legal bar for this training session. So obviously that's going to just, run through tape a little bit more. But I wanted to kind of just not necessarily simulate competition, but just use a more aggressive knurling on this one since I was just working up on singles. And I figured I should just, use the bar that's more like for competition and not have any excuses of grip because of that. But let's see how the 105 looks, because I think I remember this one feeling pretty good as well. Maybe this one was a little bit forward. I guess we'll see together. It was pretty late. I took a while to start doing this training session. I think I got there around 6:30, but I didn't really start training till like 7, because I was just laying around playing chess and relaxing. Let's see how this looks. I contemplate my life before each lift. Also repainted my shoes. That's why they look a bit more black than before. Let's see. Not too bad. I kind of got the bounce. I think it was a little bit forward, but I was able to kind of catch that bounce and just a little bit uneven on that left side as far as where I was catching it. But pretty happy. I remember being pretty happy after that because of how well I caught that bounce of the lip, so I was able to jump it right up. But I think the no-foot snatches are definitely something I need to keep in the block snatches. Honestly, just the block power snatches and the muscle snatches as I'm warming up. I didn't do them in this session, of course, but for like normal sessions, definitely want to keep adding those in, because I think that as my legs hopefully continue to either get stronger and maintain their strength, the snatches will continue to feel good as far as the pull goes. But then the overhead position, the speed, and all of that will hopefully, improve as well. Because I almost feel like that was the more limiting thing when I got to 120 was the speed underneath, which in theory, if I'm doing a lot more block work, then I'll be able to have some more practice on that. And I do want to start doing some full ones. I think I guess that's one thing I forgot to mention. So the session before this, I did block power snatch. So the session on Friday, block power snatch, and then just like overhead press. And I live streamed it, so if you do want to see those clips, I guess you can click through the live stream of it, but I'm not going to edit the clips together because it was a pretty short session and it wasn't really that great. Like, I did powers up to 90, missed 100, then went up to 102 and did a full snatch, and then just did a couple presses up to 80 for a double. And so it wasn't very, crazy or anything like that. But I just wanted to do more block work just to keep practicing that, because I want to just keep implementing those because I think it was just good for the speed under the bar, and it's a good limiter on clean and jerks because I really don't like going heavy on them just because they're so difficult. So it's kind of like a challenge to try to power clean like 115 if I'm going to do like a push press or something. It makes the clean part, I guess, more difficult. But this is the rep where I think the kid ends up walking in front a little bit of the camera, but I end up feeling really good on the catch. Yeah, you see there I'm just chilling at the bottom, and I guess it was a little bit off on the left side, but Zion is his name, so he was real interesting. We ended up talking for a bit. He pulled like a deadlift PR. He pulled like 425, which is for a 15-year-old kind of insane. But he's like a track and field athlete, so I was trying to sell him the drugs of doing weightlifting, not in the sense of not selling him stats and all, but selling him the idea of doing weightlifting. That would be really bad if I was doing that, but yeah, he seemed like a real nice kid, so I told him I'd help him out with power cleans if he wanted to try them on a different day. But I think he said he was scared of them, which is a valid fear, especially if you haven't done them before. But this 115 will end up being the heaviest snatch I do this day, and I missed the 120 for 2 tries. First one was forward, second one was behind. Second one was more so the speed underneath where it was lacking, but whoop, I hit the mic. Hopefully that wasn't too loud. But the idea of doing the block snatch is obviously speed under the bar, but also just being able to consistently hopefully get up to heavier weights and just build a consistency with those heavy weights, or at least build like the overhead consistency. So the speed under, and also just holding heavy weights above the head, more so for the snatch than for anything with the clean jerk. So I don't know. I did it twice this week, so I did them on, I believe it was Monday and Friday. I don't know if that will be every Monday and Friday that I'll do them, but as I get used to them again, I definitely want to push up the full snatches and not just do powers. But I know tomorrow I want to do leg accessories because I didn't do squat volume today, so I want to kind of do some of that tomorrow. And so Monday might be a good day to actually do blocks again. If yeah, the 115 there is just forward, and there's me contemplating knowing that like 115 it was forward, and I kind of knew like the writing was kind of on the wall, but like the speed on it felt good. I knew if I just got it back, like I would do that weight obviously a lot easier, but also be able to do more. So it wasn't even the weight was feeling bad, but just got to get better. And that's as I get more and more time with these weights again, and am able to just be 100% confident that I can catch whatever weights, like I'm just going to build the strength back, because the upper body is certainly taking the longest to get back to stability, and you could argue that it was never really there. But as my legs get stronger, then I'll just be able to take more consistent attempts at these weights. Because that was kind of actually a limiting thing for a while. It's just, I was just generally weak as far as my relative numbers. So, like, my squats weren't very high, and, my shoulders were inconsistent. So it was just kind of like everything was, I don't know, I guess you could argue that as building. And I never really got, like, super weak over this time. And I still hit big lifts during the summer, like that session where I did the 125, 160, I think it was, and did the 230 back squat and the 30. I guess I've done 305 this summer, so I guess it's kind of silly for me to say like weak, but I guess weak in the classics, not so much in the strength lifts. But I do want to figure out how to kind of structure things during the week. So I kind of mentioned the block work, trying to do those for like 2 days in a week, potentially maybe like one day where I'm just doing powers and one day where I'm pushing fulls. And honestly, it could be like a nice little Friday session where I'm not pulling anything from the floor, because I like doing powers the day before I go super heavy. And so it might be a nice little day to just push up on powers a little bit like I did yesterday, and then kind of, quote unquote, prepare myself for the next day, but essentially just not do too much. That's it's more so my goal the day before I go heavy is don't do too much the day before, because then you can't lift super heavy 2 days in a row typically. Here's the first 120 I missed. I haven't seen this one. I just looked at the second one, so we'll see how this looks. I remember the speed not feeling too bad, but like I didn't have the big pop with the big extension. I didn't have that. Yeah, so it's actually pretty close. Obviously it was in front, but the speed was there on the way up. I just didn't have quick enough underneath, which kind of tells me more evidence of block work being a good idea for me to do to get that speed under. Because actually it looks like my legs are pulling it well enough and extending well enough to do it. It's just the fixation underneath. And snatch balances, doing those the last couple weeks, I haven't, with them it's kind of tricky to do like a lot of repetitions with them, just because it's kind of a brutal exercise to keep re-racking to go underneath. But it hasn't necessarily gone bad. Like I got up to that 135, even though it was really difficult, and did the 130 before. It's good, and I would say it's good enough to push the block work. Like it tells me that the shoulder stability is there. Like I have enough, in theory, like the strength to statically hold that weight is there. I just have to be able to hold it as I'm fixating at that bottom. And the only way to really do that is to get good at snatching, or some sort of derivative of a snatch that's going to push me to go up to heavier weights in the bottom. And hopefully I'm able to do that. Like block snatches are really fun, and I think me getting those heavy again will help me off the floor, more so with the kind of the extension and in the fixation underneath, because my legs and back are strong right now, and it feels like I'm pulling well, and even looks like I extended well here. Let's see how this one looks again. This one felt very similar to the first one as far as the difficulty of it, which is one of the nice things with my snatches right now. Yeah, my left arm just didn't have the strength to hold it, and the tape was, I think, a little bit torn there. But like the speed that I'm pulling feels really good, everything up until catching the bar feels really good, which is nice because once snatching gets like really maximal, then the bar feels a little bit slower. But if I'm able to kind of maintain the leg strength and the pulling patterns that I've been trying to work on with, you know, doing snatch pulls and clean pulls, and use those to kind of implement into the weights a little bit more consistently, or just better, because usually I just pull too heavy and so it doesn't carry over as well, versus, you know, kind of mixing in those heavy pulls with pulls that are more related to the actual lifts, or at least a closer percentage. You know, not pulling 600 pounds, but pulling, you know, 180 kilos or 396 or 7, whatever it is, closer to what I'm going to actually do in a clean in a position that's similar, and more so like treating it like a donut on a baseball bat, and trying to, you know, swing a bat that feels a bit heavier, but not swinging a tree log that maybe you can move, but it's not going to be as similar to the actual main lifts. And it's a balancing act, because I wouldn't want to do all my pulls, like all my clean pulls, say at 180 and never push heavier. But at the same time, like, I think I need to spend more time in there, and I can do it more frequently too. So it's like, it's really easy volume, and I would say cheap volume, in the sense that I can recover from it really well just because of how well I can pull. So like me doing, you know, 180 clean pulls is like extremely light percentage of my it's not 50%, I guess it's probably close to 60% of like my best deadlift. So like neurologically, it's no stress no matter how I'm pulling, even if I'm pulling it a bit slower because I'm trying to pull it like a clean. Same with snatch pulls. Like if I'm doing 120 snatch pulls, or even snatch, you know, doing even more, it's not that heavy of a percentage, so I'm able to get away, quote unquote, with doing it more frequently, and I really should. I didn't do any pulls in this session. That's the other thing I want to make sure I do tomorrow. Snatch pulls or clean pulls, we'll kind of have to play that by feel, because I know tomorrow I want to do some back squat volume. I want to do some snatch pulls, or at least I don't know if necessarily I'll do squat volume, but I definitely want to do squat accessories. So I kind of want to do the hack squats again, the walking lunges, which I did twice last week, which is really good for me, because normally I do it -0 times or -10 times, because I think, ugh, what a terrible exercise. But I think those are going to be good to do as well as maybe some leg extensions, just some quad focused stuff, because was it the 2 days ago, did some RDLs and stuff, and those still feel strong. Like posterior chain never feels weak. So it's a nice luxury to have. It's the only one I really have when it comes to the weightlifting. I guess that and the ankle mobility. The hip and ankle mobility to get really low in the clean and the snatch, at least in my opinion. But clean jerks, I think I mentioned this earlier, but they felt really good as far as the leg strength, the bounce out of them. Jerks felt pretty good up to 140, and then obviously the 150 was really sneaky. But you know, we got better. I did the 150 for a double this week, so I mean that was, and I was thinking about it, like I've called it a PR because I'm pretty sure I've never doubled that before out of any position, even from the blocks, which is extremely surprised. Like that honestly came out of nowhere. I mean, with how bad all my jerks have been looking and how inconsistent that position on my shoulder has been, like it frankly came out of nowhere. I was just really surprised. Even with the first one, I was surprised that I even did it. Because when I came into that rep, I was like, I just hope I can do this. And then I did the first one. I was like, man, I think I could do 2, and re-racked it and didn't, you know, lose too much energy from the re-rack. Because that's the most difficult part of doing a double with a jerk, if you're not doing it from the blocks, is that re-rack, because that does take a considerable amount of your energy away, especially if you don't catch it exactly right. It can sap almost all of your energy away. So it's kind of critical to, you know, catch in a way that's not going to make you have to readjust it a lot. But what is this, 125? So this one still felt really good. It was kind of towards this point where I was really seeing the knee sleeve setup. I was like, this is actually kind of the way. Like I was really surprised with how good it felt. I don't know if it's actually legal in competition to do this, to have the wraps under the sleeves, but if it's not, I don't think it's not like, oh my gosh, I can't do any lifting. But I think for training, I might just go with the setup for normal training days. So kind of crazy, but trying to get used to taking the normal jumps from that 70, 100, 125, 140, kind of like stuff I would do in competition. The only real difference between the last one is I just added 3 kilos to all of my warm-ups. So then my last warm-up wasn't 150, it was 153, because I wanted to open at 160. So you know, like little adjustments like that aren't too big of a deal. Just the general theme of taking similar jumps As long as it's, they're all consistent jumps, it will certainly be routine for training. But for me right now, I just want to get used to and get good at doing the 140 to 150 jump again, and just making really on this heavy day of the week, getting to 120, 150, and just making that the consistent total that I'm hitting every week, no matter what I'm doing prior in that week. So I know it won't be something, obviously I didn't do it this week because I didn't snatch 120, but I just want to get to those numbers and make them feel easy. Kind of like how 115 felt, or I should say 110 because that was a better rep, but like I want the top set to feel a bit heavy, but I want it to get better as I'm getting stronger. And that's something I will say, even though, the 120 I've missed the 2 times, like getting up to that 115 without missing, and just the weight itself in my hands is feeling manageable. I'm not having to fight with everything I have to kind of get under it. Like I feel like I have excess strength now in a sense, which tells me that the snatch pulls are helping, that the clean pulls are helping, that all the RDLs that I've been doing, or just deadlifts, are probably helping too, as well as the front squats and the back squats. And obviously want to keep trying to push more volume. I always talk about that, and then I end up maxing out everything, but I think a lot of the repetitions, that those will start to help if I'm able to actually man up and do them. But what's nice is, like, if I do like make the mistake of quote unquote not doing a bunch of reps on the back squat, if I'm still hitting some volume in the accessories and a hack squat or a leg extension, like I'm still doing more than nothing, which I think will be good to do in general, just for I guess even like a leg focused building. Like just like a hack squat and a leg extension is really going to only hit my quads. It's not going to stress out my back or fatigue my back more. So it's good to do, I think, in general, but I obviously want to do more back squats. And I don't know, like I've thought about like maybe pushing the front squat volume, but it's just so difficult on my front rack. And I'm consistently hitting 180 now for the most part. And if I'm able to continue to do that and get my legs because to continue to be stronger in general, like in the session where I hit the 230, like it's certainly whatever I'm doing for squatting is seemingly working, because I haven't done 230 for I think since I did that massive session earlier in the summer. I think that's the last time I did 230, and I did the 210 prior to that, and it felt easy, which was really surprising, because you'll see I jumped from 140, or not 140, excuse me, from 170 up to 210, and the 210 felt easy. I was convinced that that was going to be my top set, top rep, and I was just going to get really, I was either going to just immediately fail it, or it was going to feel really hard and I didn't want to go up. In the back of my mind, when I was doing the squats, I was like, I think I might do 220. We'll see, maybe 210 feels really good. And I then did 210. I was like, oh my gosh, like that was actually easy. And so I knew 230 was not guaranteed, because it's like with a weight like that, for me, I could just take it off the rack and it's going to feel pretty heavy. But I was like, I know I can attempt it, but like it might just stop. Like it's just one of those things that, especially you jump up 20 kilos, it's not a crazy jump for squats, but sometimes the weight just doesn't move, and it's just how it is. But really happy with this week of training, honestly. To it would have been the icing on the cake to make 120 from the floor, but the fact that I did a no foot snatch with 110. I'm introducing the block work again. The squats are going really well. The PR double with the jerk, doing the 120 push press earlier this week. Like all of the things are aligning, and I think now I need to make sure that I stay in the mindset of I don't need to increase the maxes that I'm doing on all these lifts next week or in the week after. Like I just need to start accumulating more reps at or below those weights. Obviously, with the exception of I'm not going to start doing doubles with 150 and clean and jerk or at 230 back squat, but start to try to accumulate more volume and still be able to hopefully push closer or work towards those weights, so I can just build that strength and keep hitting the accessory work, because I've been really happy. I think, well, the lunges I mentioned I did twice, the hack squats I did once, leg extensions did once, but honestly, like the lunges, if I could just do that like 2 or 3 times a week, I think that's just going to be really good as far as unilateral work. And maybe in theory eventually I'll add weight, but right now, like they're so mentally difficult for me to do, and I'm actually getting sore like glutes from just body weight lunges. So right now I think I'm good. Maybe next week I'll I'd say that maybe next week I'll add more, but probably not. I'll probably just do more body weight ones. See there, like clean was really easy, and so that tells me that my legs are definitely there, and the clean and jerks are, that's ugly, but tells me that as my legs get better, I'll start to be able to keep taking attempts at that 150 and just get better. I just have to get it pushed back, and that's what I did with that jerk double earlier this week when on that first rep. Like I just got it back, and it was just in such a good position. I just have to be committed to it. I think it's just either a conscious or subconscious apprehension to getting it behind my head with that. And that's the other thing I kind of want to do as well is some more behind the neck jerks. I think those will be nice as well. Even if I don't necessarily push them, crazy heavy. I think the time when I introduced them, I did 140. So I don't know, like there's all these different things that I think are good to do, and the key is finding the conceptual things that you want to focus on for each week of training, and kind of just figure out where it all fits in. Because obviously, a session like I had on Wednesday where I did 1,000 different exercises is not one that I could typically bank on doing every week because of just the inconsistency of life and the fact that you probably don't want to do a session like that all the time or even like every week because of how much fatigue it creates for future sessions. And I'm always in the mindset of I like training every day, so I want to leave something to do for the next day. I don't want to do 7 exercises and then not have anything that I can do the next day because I'm so fatigued from everything. So that's why I don't mind like, oh, I'm gonna not do this today, because then it gives me something to start the basis of the next workout and kind of plan that. Because I have the idea of like what I want a week to look like in some senses, and right now, because I'm just in such a general time of my training, I don't really like think necessarily like I want to do all of this specifically in a week. I kind of think about like Saturday, I probably want it to be my heavy snatch and clean jerk day, or at least a day where I can go heavy on the snatch and clean jerk. I want to keep pushing up all these lifts and just kind of trying to figure out where they fit in. And it's kind of the tricky thing with the school year happening is there is stress that you have from school, whether it's a good day or a bad day. I walk about 10,000 steps at school just before I even step into the gym. So there is that actual fatigue. Like this morning, I was 232 pounds. Like I lost 3 pounds again by accident. 2.5, probably 2.5. I think it was 232 point something, but I always weigh myself with sweat. So I probably was honestly 232. Like I lose weight like that, and thankfully today I still lift real well, but it tells me that I am expending a lot of energy when I'm at work, cognitively of course, but also like literally physically moving around. And so I have to account for that, and there could be a day where I do more walking or less walking, or there's more to do mentally or physically than other days. And so like that's a part of the thing that I can't necessarily plan for, because it's a lot of times it's random. It could be you had a meeting, but there was like a day this week where there was a staff meeting and they do it in the gym, and so it wasn't like the meeting was stressful, but I was helping put chairs and stuff away after that meeting. So like little stuff like that adds up in the sense that you're doing more physical stuff during the day. So that was like, I think I ended up looking, I was like, I have 2,500 steps already, because I bought a little Google Pixel watch to go with my phone, just because I was curious how much steps I was taking, and I think the watch is probably more accurate than my phone just being in my pocket. And I was like, wow, that's 2,500 steps, and I was like 11,000 steps for the day. So it's like there's stuff like that I may not necessarily think or like necessarily care about as far as training. Like I'm still going to train normal that day, but it is something to think about. Like maybe I feel a little bit more tired that day, and I'm not just like, wow, I didn't sleep or I didn't eat. It's like, oh no, I actually expended more energy than I would have on a different day. And some of those times are obvious when you have a really stressful day, or stuff goes bad or whatever like that, like when you feel sad or depressed or tired, like all of that, like stuff gets in the way. But sometimes there's sneaky stuff like that you don't think like, oh my goodness, I put away chairs, like that's so difficult. But when you're expending more energy than you would on a typical day, and you're already kind of like pushing up pretty high for the amount that you're spending, it is something that can be a factor. And I think, what was the meeting? The meeting was on Wednesday, I think, and that's when I did that really large training session. So like it may even be a thing where you think like, oh, I trained really well today and I did extra, I got like 11,000 steps in, like maybe, like maybe that's something that correlates to better training. So it's like one of those things that you can look at it both ways. Like maybe this is why I felt tired today, or oh, I trained really well. Like maybe I ate more food or slept better, or maybe I took more steps than I normally do, moved more in general. So it's kind of those things. And I think just being, a teacher, it's something I kind of have to think about in relation to training, because it's just like if I did any sort of manual labor job, not that I'm, straining myself crazily, but it is something that, is important to account for, and to, give yourself some grace if you are feeling bad, and to adjust those training, which is the crux of what I was bringing that all up for, is that it's hard for me to sit down and write a week of training, because there are those factors where there might be a day I have to stay after school for curriculum night, like last week, which thankfully I didn't have to stay very long, but like I stayed and helped set up for that. And then there's like a staff meeting before school. Like there's little things that happen throughout school year where it may not be like, all right, I can plan 3 weeks at a time. Well, there's going to be, 3 random things that are happening, and there's going to be a school event, or like there's different things that are going on. And I understand that's life for people that have kids and families and stuff, but it's something that makes planning like a week even of training like pretty difficult to do, because it's like I could have a day where everything feels bad and I can't do a session that was going to be heavy like I was planning, and it's like, well, do you push that to the next day, or do you adjust everything, or like think about this? And like now it's just like, I know generally what I want to get done in a week, and I know like the concepts that I want to work on, and it's trying to find the days that fit with those, while still having the overarching idea of a Saturday being a day where I push snatch and clean jerk. So I'm not like, the way that would kind of manifest is, I'm thinking about training is on a Friday, I'm probably not going to do a maximal deadlift or a super heavy squat. So I know like there's those, quote unquote limits to those sessions, to where it's like, all right, I still want to work out. I still want to push something. I'm not even opposed to repetitions necessarily, but I don't want to do something so heavy that the next day is going to be impacted. So I don't want to try to do a triple at 100 on the snatch, but I'm probably not going to be feeling as great as I could be on a Saturday. But if it's a Monday or Tuesday or Wednesday even, I can push pretty hard on those days, because I know that even if I feel like last week was like Thursday, I just pulled a little bit, and then Friday just did some block work. Like those days I can chill out a bit more. So it's when you have the idea or the goal of training basically every day, or at least you want to give yourself the ability to train every day, it's important to know that there's ebbs and flows in life, ebbs and flows in how you're going to feel in those training sessions, and trying to give yourself the best time to be successful when you are pushing on days where you want to push a certain lift, or push volume in a certain way, or hit a lot of accessories on a different day, or a day where it's like, all right, I need to practice the lifts or something, and not do really heavy stuff or really heavy volume, or provide a limiter like a power snatch, in a sense where it's like I can only go up to a certain weight because I'm gonna eventually not make the power, or miss a lift or whatever. And so having those like self limiters in those days, or at least limits of lift, are also, I think, really nice, or really important to have. And finding those ones that are good, like for me, power snatching is like, it seems like it's gonna be good for the snatch, and it limits me from going heavier on them, so it kind of works in two fronts. But I believe this is the 210. I got my Coke Zero as well, that I've been sipping on while I'm talking. Been a big fan of Coke Zero for a while. It's quite delicious. I like Coke, and obviously I don't want to be sitting here slamming full sugar Cokes. That would be probably not good for for my health. But Coke Zeros are nice. I think they taste basically the same as regular Coke, but yeah, here's the 210. And I don't know if the speed looked good. I guess we'll see how the speed looks. This felt really easy when I did it. I was really surprised. Yeah, I mean, for 210, like, that moved really well for me. And the fact that I went from 170 to 210, because that's like two things I use to assess like the next jump if I'm gonna push up for a heavy squat on a particular day, is if I go from like 170 to 200, or in this case 210, like I know it's gonna feel heavier. Obviously I added 40 kilos of weight, but then like if it doesn't feel horrendous, in this case it actually felt like really good, then I know like, oh wow, like I have a lot more left, because that was a really big jump to a pretty heavy, like 210s are a really pretty intense percentage, and for it to feel pretty routine, I was like, all right, that's really good. Like I didn't have any hesitation with it. I just smashed the weight. So I was like, I'm pretty sure like, and that's kind of the, I guess, the science of trying to like pick the next weight or whatever. It's like I don't want to do 220 then 230. That's just going to expend too much energy if my goal is just to go to a heavy weight and, do, it was either going to be a 220 or 230. Like, I wasn't going to do both. I was like, I'm pretty sure, like, based on the fact that I jumped 40 kilos and 210 felt pretty good, like, the next logical jump is just to go to 230. And it's nice when it's in kilos because I don't really psych myself out as much as if it's in pounds, because it's more, I don't really know how to describe it, but it just feels more scientific if I just add 40 kilos, I do a weight, I'm like, yep, that makes sense. I'm just going to add half that amount to the next one. But like if I'm thinking pounds, I'm like, I split 88 pounds on that, between the two, the 170 and 210. And it's like this, like going up 44 pounds. And so it's like, it feels more intense and it feels heavier when you do that in pounds. But in kilos, it just feels like, yep, it's just the next logical jump. It makes sense. And, I've done these jumps and squats enough to where I know it's manageable. It's not like an insurmountable thing. And hopefully, as my legs hopefully continue to get stronger, this 230 just becomes a more and more consistent weight. Because obviously, if I'm able to, increase my back squat, that's going to be obviously just a good thing to do and quite fun. I don't really necessarily think it's that critical for me to necessarily get up to like 240 or 250 in the back squat. Obviously, that's going to be good to do in general, but it's not like the hyper focus of my training to increase my 1 rep max on the back squat, because it's not like the deadlift in the sense that it's unimportant. But like if I can do 230 consistently for singles, then I kind of have enough back squat strength to where I need to push my front squat up a bit more. I think it'd be much more impactful if I was to start front squatting 190 consistently again. And I guess I never really necessarily did it consistently, but do it more than never, which is kind of the state that I'm in now. And if I'm able to get up to 190 consistently and just push that up, hopefully even closer to 200, I think it's just gonna be more relevant and more important. But obviously, a bigger back squat, it's gonna be good for everything. And knowing myself, it'll probably only increase my deadlift. When my snatch and clean jerk will stay the same, and my deadlift will go up 20 kilos more, because it's just the hand I was dealt by the genetic gods. But I say that kind of in jest. Obviously, it would probably help the main lifts, but obviously you don't want to go so insane with it. Not even so much from the recoverability aspect, but as I get heavier in the back squat, like I pitch over more, so it's more posterior chain. So it's more important to me to squat kind of how you'll see the 230 that I did today in a fashion that's correct and not get to a super grindy rep. So kind of avoid those like super maximal, I'm absolutely dying on this rep. It's less about like, oh no, I'm not going to be able to lift heavy tomorrow, but more so because of the positional differences that occur with that. And for me, it's more, ends up just being more of my back. So if I'm able to, kind of similar to the front squats, maintain my upright position a bit better, it's going to hit my legs a little bit more and just be more relevant to what I'm training. And of course, you could argue be a bit safer as well, but it's just going to feel better, it's going to move better, and it's going to probably carry over a bit better. Obviously, if I could do that with 240 or 250, that's going to be even better than that. But it's kind of a similar mindset with the clean pulls, where it's like I can pull a clean deadlift or just a regular deadlift a lot heavier. But if I'm trying to maintain the position of a clean with the pull that I'm doing, it's going to carry over better to the clean or to the snatch or whatever, a little bit better. But when I took this off, definitely felt heavy. But as I started to go down, I was like, oh, I got it. Obviously, it kind of got stuck there for a little bit, but I was just so happy to be able to get that. I was just really surprised that, and not necessarily, it didn't feel easy or anything. It wasn't like I was going to do it for a double or anything, but when I did, I was not thinking I was going to be able to get up to 230 today. And today, I was like thinking 220 was going to be like, oh my gosh, I'm so happy I did 220. But the 230, definitely happy with that. Definitely kind of put a really nice bow on this session, especially for like a heavy Saturday. And maybe that'll just be kind of the common theme, just to, a maximal in a sense, like snatch, clean jerk, and back squat, and then, some upper body accessories, and leave the pulls and stuff for the next day, and not really focus on, doing a crazy heavy deadlift or anything on a daily as well. It's kind of the trick I put myself into. I was like, I'll do a really good squat, or like have like a pretty positive session like this. And then I'm like, I'm going to do a deadlift too. And this is, I'll do like a crazy deadlift for no reason and then fatigue myself for the next session. But I think tomorrow I'll feel pretty good as far as the recoverability and be able to for sure do some squat volume and some pull volume, but maybe do some stuff like I'm kind of feeling, either like a no foot snatch or a power snatch and then some push presses. I feel like those would be good because I'm probably going to go to the gym again tomorrow, and then maybe some block work on Monday. And hopefully I get into, I guess that's kind of the nice thing is like if I get into the school routine, I get into a lifting routine, and in the routine in the sense that like I hit similar exercises on similar days, then that's where like the week kind of develops itself, and then I can kind of start to push on those individual days. But I don't know. There's a lot of different ideas that kind of float around as I'm training, and I think as long as I stay consistent, just training is every day or however frequent I can. I like how much the rack moves, but you should see some of the hogs, the big powerlifters that come to the gym. They call themselves the hogs. I'm not just saying that. And when they're hammering away at this thing shaking all over the place. But it's interesting. This machine is actually in kilos, so I have it on number 3. I guess it says 30. I forget whether it says 3 or 30, but it's not 30 pounds, it's 30 kilos. So, it's like, what, 66 pounds or whatever. Which, for a while, I actually didn't know that for probably the first year or two I was at the gym, which, for me, I'm doing accessories, so I don't really care about the actual weight that I'm doing. Like, obviously, you want to do more, but it didn't matter if it was 30 pounds or 30 kilos. Like, I was just trying to increase to 40 or whatever it was. But when Rob, the owner of the gym, mentioned, it's like, yeah, I got this in kilos, so we could, they're super strong, so they're going to be using a lot of the stack, even if it goes down to 100, so like 220 in pounds. It makes you feel a lot better when you realize, like, all right, like, I'm not just super weak, like, it actually is in kilos. So if you're doing like a single arm lift and it's like, well, like, I can't really push this past the 10, I can't get to 20. It's like, well, it's because it's a 10 kilo jump. It's not just a 10-pound jump. So it's a different animal, I suppose. But yeah, it was nice to realize that, because then you don't feel bad about just doing one plate or one, the 10 on there. You actually have a good amount of weight still. It was interesting. So as I was doing these extensions, my left arm, I don't really know how to describe the motion, but if you have your arm in front of you and you just extend your arm out, how I guess your biceps facing up a little bit more so than down. And when I was starting to struggle with these weights, it was like my arm was internally rotating a little bit, so I wasn't able to like fully extend it. But it was just my left side that was failing, and so that's why I was doing these holds here, and I dropped really all the way down. I kind of like doing the waves, I guess, in a sense, or a pyramid, I should say. That's a more accurate term for bodybuilding work. So work up to a heavy set and try to do, I did 60 kilos, I think, assuming that it is in kilos, 60 kilos for a set of 10 or 8 or whatever I did, and then go back down to 40 and 30 and just kind of do drop sets until I have a pump, which to me is like, I don't know, it just feels super easy to get a pump. Like, maybe that's a genetic thing. Like, I've never been like, oh my goodness, I can't find a pump and can't get my arms to, get blood into them. It just always felt super easy to do, which is, I guess, why I never really enjoyed doing it, because it was not really ever a challenge. You just keep doing reps until, your arm stops working, still till the muscle stop working. And then once you stop, you have a bunch of blood in it, and then you feel the pump or whatever. I never really enjoyed the pump, but I still don't really. To me, it's just an indicator that I've done enough work in that muscle. But like, I don't really necessarily enjoy it because I don't like the lack of mobility. Over the years, I've kind of just gotten used to it and don't really care as much. But I remember being like a teenager and not liking it, which is probably the least like bro thing to experience. But I guess when I was lifting, it was more so for sports. But after doing the extension, so I got down to lighter weights and was really focusing on that full extension on the arm, which obviously, I think the overhead the overhead extensions with the cable, I think it's just a good thing to do for snatching and for my jerks. I think it's a good accessory for me. I really do feel it in my triceps a lot, so it feels nice. And first time I did it, I got some ab soreness from it, which was interesting, but it's definitely challenging to do at the overhead position, which, I don't know. I've been liking it, so I kind of want to keep adding it in. It's certainly not going to make me a worse at snatching or doing jerks or whatever, than just doing some biceps because I was obligated to, because of the fact that I did triceps. I really don't like doing bicep training. I find it extremely boring. And I'm very glad that my biceps get pumped really quick, so I don't have to go super crazy on them. And maybe that's because they're super strong, and maybe it would be beneficial to have them stronger, but I don't really value them. I think the triceps are obviously much more important for, anything I'm doing holding a weight overhead. but obviously you should still train your biceps to kind of make sure things are balanced in that sense. You wouldn't want to have a crazy asymmetry in that regard, but I don't know. Got a little bicep pump in, got a little tricep pump in, and then I sat in my car for 40 minutes because my car battery died, so I had to wait for someone that was connected to my car insurance to come and jump the battery, which I got home. Which is funny because first thing I did before I even trained today was order a new car battery because it was like 5 years old and I was starting to have issues with it. Got all the way to the gym perfectly fine. Then when I left, the battery's dead. So that was fun. But I should have a new battery. It should be here tomorrow at 7 a.m. or between 7 and 9. So I should be good for the next week of work and not be stuck at school or stuck at home trying to start my car. So hopefully that goes smooth, which, it's just changing battery, so it's not that radical of a thing. Also got to rotate my tires, which I've been having an issue getting my lug nuts off my car, so you got a lot to do tomorrow. Plus, I didn't do any grad work today. I procrastinated all of that, so tomorrow's going to be busy, but still going to train because I always will train. But that's it for this one. If you made it all the way to the end, you are a true champion, and I appreciate you. And I appreciate anyone that made it to any point of this video, but I'll talk to you all in the next one. Hope you have a great day. Peace.